all good. I'm really happy to be here. So just a very, very little bit about me before I move on to talk about the main thing that I want to talk about today, which is Free to Fly and the project that we're coming up to do in Portsmouth. I am a multi-business owner. So I am the co-owner and sales and marketing director of an accountancy firm called Purple Accounting. I've coached a number of accountants myself, and then I realised, hold on a minute, I'm helping everybody else make lots of money. And then once they're finished with me, I'm done and I'm back to square one. I'm actually going to build my own. So that's what I'm doing. I partnered with a brilliant accountant. He's absolutely lovely. He's actually Lithuanian and he's got a very different style to me. So I'm kind of the yin to his yang, and I'm bringing a different side to the business. And what we do is help small business owners, usually single company directors, to completely outsource all of their accounts. So all of the lot, everything, bookkeeping, VAT, payroll, accounts, self-assessment, all of it. We don't want to do piecemeal work. We want to take all of the stress away from people so they can just trust that whatever they need, we've got the answers because it's right there in front of us. We can offer a better service. So we are doing that. I also run the Inspire UK membership, which is for female entrepreneurs who want to access peer-to-peer support, group coaching, mentoring, and a little bit of networking on the side. But it's actually about personal growth and business growth as female entrepreneurs. And that's an online community that I run with about 200 paid members and 11,500 people in my community. So I've got these sort of businesses that take up my day to day, but I'm actually a former social worker. And although I've always run my own businesses for fun, I had a professional career alongside, and I started out in marketing, got thrown under the bus and realised that marketing was not an arena that I actually wanted to be in the corporate world at least. So I left and I retrained as a social worker, where I felt that I would make a difference and set the world on fire and see lives change. I had all these great intentions. And I did do that for nearly 10 years. I became a senior social worker for Hampshire County Council, and I worked in the adults with learning disabilities team, and then later on the out of hours services across adults and children of all different challenges. So I got quite a lot of exposure in that part of my career to abuse, and I'm going to be careful what I share because I don't want to trigger anybody too much this morning if this is relevant to you, so apologies. But abuse has become something that I'm actually quite familiar with dealing with, and every single case touches my heart. Every single case is an emotional thing for me, but I've learned to cope with that. I've developed resilience so that I can bring value to people in those situations, hopefully. And that was what social work gifted me, that resilience and robustness, the awareness of oppression and disempowerment and institutionalization, the systemic abuse that happens, and the trampling of our system on people who really need to be empowered and lifted up. And I really had a heart for that. And I found it incredibly frustrating as a pen pusher. Essentially, that's not what I got into it for, but that's what I realized I had become. And I was, a civil servant. I was a servant to the system that didn't serve people. So I was always running my own businesses alongside, and I thought, you know what, I could do so much more if I just ran my own businesses full time, and I wasn't trying to do this around my day job, but I made it my day job. So I threw myself into business, grew my first business, quit my job. It was all going really, really well, and then lockdown happened. So I was business coaching and running a network at that point, and it all fell apart. But it was during that lockdown that I'd just taken on the Inspire Women's Network, and I was getting into the world of women in a way that I never really had in the past. I've always been about equality and diversity, and not being gender specific in my networking activity or any other part of what I do. But I felt really called into taking on the Inspire business that was failing and turning it around. And as I did that, I found my heart softening towards the plight of women. And I started asking questions like, what is it about this sort of collection of women that I'm loving so much? What is it that I'm here for? Because I really felt called into that space in a really unusual sort of spiritual way. And I started asking questions. I actually have a faith. I'm not ashamed of my faith, but I don't hit people over the head with it. But I did start asking big spiritual questions about, why am I here? Actually, I had all this, money and success in my previous business before lockdown, but it wasn't fulfilling me. I'd taken on Inspire, and lockdown had happened. And I just felt like it was almost my time to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. It was like my own midlife crisis at the age of 34 at that point, actually. So maybe a bit younger than some to have that existential crisis, but I had it nonetheless. And I had a lot of coaching. And in that season, I realized a lot about myself and what motivated me, about wanting to empower people to see lives transformed, to have an impact in the world beyond making money. Money doesn't make us happy. It's the benefit and the impact that we have on other people and the relationships that we enjoy that actually give us that sense of fulfillment and satisfaction. And so in this space where I was serving all these women, I was seeking something more, something deeper. And I received what I can only describe as a vision. My heart was softened to the plight of women, as I said, and there was something about a specific piece of legislation, which I won't bore you with today because it just takes too much time, but it really spoke to me and it broke my heart, and I was weeping for these expectant mums who were finding themselves in abusive relationships and felt that they had no choice but to terminate their pregnancy. Now, I'm not a pro-lifer campaigner type person. I am a non-judgmental, totally loving person, and I've been through my own experiences. So I would never wish the loss of a child on anybody. I've been through that loss and I know how devastating it is. But to have to make that decision, I cannot imagine how desperate a person must be, particularly late in pregnancy, which is what this legislation was trying to support, was late abortions at sort of 24, 25 weeks. Now, I've got a friend who's got a son who was born at 24 weeks, and he's 21 and he is thriving. And she was encouraged to let him go, but she fought and won. Thank goodness for that. But I had a real softening of my heart towards expectant mums and giving them choices, options, empowering them to know that they can do this, that they can make a choice, and they can get out of these abusive relationships and they don't have to suffer alone. And so it's not about, we're not a pro-life charity at Free to Fly, but I had this real vision for supporting women to make the right choice for them. And if they are in an abusive relationship, that is so much harder for them to raise their children safely. I became very aware that there's this agenda going on around this bit of legislation that was specifically linked to domestic abuse. It came under the Domestic Abuse Act, and there was an amendment trying to be made to make this work. And I started asking questions like, why would a woman who was pregnant in an abusive relationship be more likely to need a termination? Why would that happen? I started to realize it's because of a lack of choice, a lack of support, a sense of hopelessness. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I've got to do something about this. Nobody else seems to be doing anything. When I started researching, I realized that there was a massive lack of support for this specific group of people. There's a lot of generic refuges and domestic abuse services out there. They're all oversubscribed. They're all crushed by the pressures that they're faced with, and the demand is huge. But I started speaking to women about this heart that I had and this vision that I had for something to help specifically expectant mothers, so that when we break the cycle of abuse during pregnancy, the woman has got much better likelihood of freedom long term. There's a lot less hold that the partner has if she can get out before the child is born, and there's a lot that can be done to prevent trauma during development in the womb and into childhood. So the earlier that we can get women out of abuse with their children, basically, if we can get them out in pregnancy before the child's even born, we have so much of a better chance of supporting them to stay free long term. What I realized is all the stuff that's out there is very short term. It is very sticking plaster solution, and it isn't tailored, and it doesn't give people options and choices. It's very much, here's a thing, this is what we have, that's it. And I really felt like women deserve better choices than that. They need to feel supported. So I had a few key things around this, which is, it takes a village to raise a child. Women need to feel that they're not alone and that there are people around them that will support them. Women need to feel that they can change their lives and that this isn't a hopeless situation, and that there is something for them that will work, whatever their situation. We often think that women experiencing domestic abuse are, people with bruises and broken arms, but actually what we don't see is the control, the manipulation, the financial abuse, the psychological, emotional trauma that women are going through. Very often I've spoken to head teachers, I've spoken to solicitors, I've spoken to pillars of the community that are going through this experience, and they're all agreeing that this sort of stereotype that we see of women in an abusive relationship is completely ill-informed and inappropriate. And there's not a solution for women that really feels appropriate sometimes for them in their situations, and not having to uproot your life and move halfway across the country to get out of a relationship, not having to do things the way that other people just dictate you must do them because that's the system and that's what's there. And so I had this vision for Free to Fly that's basically about trying to create the very best possible outcomes for women and children. But it's actually about breaking cycles of abuse. And so that needs to happen in pregnancy if we're going to see true long-term freedom and protect the children as much as possible to reduce the impact of abuse on them. So we're niche focused as a charity. And I have this vision for this charity of providing long-term support that is really flexible, that's really person-centered. But it's going to have to go against the grain in terms of how it runs, because otherwise we end up in the same situation as all the other charities where we're trying to apply for funding to support projects that have only been created in order so that we can get the funding so that we can do something. And I realized that as a business person, as an entrepreneur, but someone with a big heart and an understanding of people and abuse, what I could actually create was a charity on a business model that is sustainable, that doesn't rely on grants and big amounts of public money and contracts, but that actually is designed for the needs of women. So we are starting a project in Portsmouth. It's going to be our first project. We're going to hopefully roll this out nationally. And the project, it has to start like a project, but once we have the key elements established, then we can extend to create the full offer that we want to. So the very beginning of this project looks like an emergency refuge type environment, short stay, so that anytime a woman feels like, yes, I need to get out, they can get out of that relationship and know there is somewhere that they can go to that will receive them immediately in their local area. Once we've got that in place, we're then able to collaborate and link in with the other incredible charities and agencies that already exist to support women to find the right onward journey for them. That's the very beginning. We then want to start offering medium to long-term accommodation for women with kind of built-in support to hold the baby while they go off and have a shower, supporting them through labour and pregnancy and labour. We want to offer coaching, counselling, therapy to sort of support the internal transformation and the healing that needs to happen, and sort of providing a signposting service and a buddy service to support women long-term so that they don't ever feel that they're on their own. It's a huge endeavour. The vision is huge. Fitting it into 10 minutes is a challenge, but what we're doing right now is we're building a model that enables us to get this first property underway. So we're looking to collaborate with other business owners, and my business is playing a part in this as well. We've already got quite a few people signed up to help. We've got this campaign called 100 for 100, where we're looking for 100 Portsmouth businesses, business owners, individuals to support and pledge £100 a month to enable us to get this property up and running. With that money, we will be able to work with investors who want to help us to purchase property and to be able to pay them on a fixed annual return, supported somewhat by the monies that we're being gifted, but the majority of those monies will actually pay for the staffing and the support that will need to go in. So we've got a business model that's dependent on having 100 people giving £100 a month. I know that's achievable. I've achieved much more difficult things than that, but that's a whistle-stop tour of me, the vision, what we're doing in Portsmouth, the beginning of the project. We're looking for volunteers to help us fundraise. We're looking to run an event in September that will be like a black tie gala sort of dinner, where we want to explain to people what we're doing in a bit more depth, rally some support. So I'm looking for volunteers to join me in any area of getting this started, but we're hoping that by the end of this year we'll be at a position where we're ready to buy a property, and we want to buy it so that nobody can pull the rug out from underneath this. No one can withdraw the funding that's going to cause that to disappear. So this is a long term, it's going to be my life's work. I'm very passionate about it, as you can probably tell. And all of what I'm doing in business is actually to support, my family, but also to support female empowerment, to support the raising up of business as a powerful force for good, and recognizing that as business owners, we can make a massive impact in the lives of others if we choose to. So I'm building my own business model in a way that frees me up so that I can focus on this charity work and still support my family and still step up to the plate at home. I will never be paid for my work in the charity. That is my pledge. I am the chair, the founder. We are a registered charity. I have a board of trustees. So if anybody wants to talk to me at all about it, if this has interested you in any way at all, I would love to have a one-to-one with you at some point and get to know you a bit and find out what your heart is for it. And equally, if you know anybody that you think would be interested in helping in some way, we're going to need all the help we can get from the community. It takes a village to raise a child, so we need to rally the support of the people of Portsmouth, because this is a local service for local people. So thank you so much for this opportunity. It's 9 o'clock, didn't quite make it with 5 minutes to spare, sorry, but I did my best. Thank you for hearing me and for having me at the meeting, and I'm hoping to get more involved longer term with PB. So yeah, thank you very much, Penny. Now back over to you.